Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, a young shepherd boy named David was sent by his father to bring food to his older brothers who were soldiers in the army of Israel. David arrives on the battlefield, sees Goliath taunting the Israelites, and approaches King Saul. And David said to King Saul,
"Your Majesty, I will fight the giant Goliath."
"You're just a boy. How could you defeat a giant like him?" said Saul. And David replied,
"I'm not alone. God's got my back."
David looked around the ground and saw some small, smooth stones. He picked up the first one and felt its weight in his hand. It felt just right. He picked up another and felt its texture between his fingers. It was smooth and easy to grip. He then picked up a third and held it up to the light. It sparkled in the sun. David smiled. He had found his stones. He carefully selected 5 smooth stones, each one carefully chosen and inspected for the perfect size and shape. He put them in a small leather pouch, which he tied to his belt. David knew that he had everything he needed for the battle ahead. With the stones in his pouch, David began to make his way towards Goliath, his heart beating fast with excitement and anticipation. He had faith in God, and he knew that with his skill and the stones he had chosen, he would be able to defeat the giant. And so, with a confident stride and the weight of his pouch resting against his hip, David approached Goliath, ready to face whatever came his way. Back to the battlefield where Goliath is seen walking towards David, who stands confidently with his sling. Goliath roared at David, saying,
"You think you can beat me with that little toy?
You come to me with a sword and a spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied."
As David stood before Goliath, he could feel his heart racing in his chest. The giant sneered down at him, his massive body towering over David like a mountain. David reached down and carefully removed one of the stones from his pouch, feeling its smooth surface with his fingers. He then placed the stone into the leather pouch of his sling, pulling the cords taut. Let us know what you think about this great story in the comment below, and subscribe or follow if you haven't, so that you don't miss any story. Plus, do you know that you can comment what Bible story you want to see in the comments? Don't forget to like also. Great, let's continue with our story. Goliath let out a deep, mocking laugh, but David stood his ground, his eyes fixed on the giant's forehead. With a flick of his wrist, David released the stone from the sling, sending it hurtling towards Goliath at a blinding speed. The stone found its mark, striking Goliath in the forehead with a resounding thud. Goliath stumbled back, his eyes rolling back in his head as he fell to the ground with a mighty crash. The Israelites cheered as David rushed forward, seizing the giant's own sword and using it to deliver the killing blow. In that moment, David knew that it was not his own strength or skill that had brought down the giant, but the hand of God that had guided his sling and chosen the stone that would strike the final blow. And so, with his heart full of faith and gratitude, David stood victorious over the fallen giant, a hero to the people of Israel and a symbol of God's power and grace. And that's the story of David and Goliath, where a small and unlikely hero defeated a giant with faith in God and courage in his heart.